Hello, welcome to Looking Up. Looking Up is a comprehensive, verse-by-verse, inductive Bible study. Looking Up is independent and not affiliated with any organization or denomination. Now here's today's study.
The book of Exodus was primarily written by Moses. The Greek word Exodus comes from exo, which means out, and hodos meaning way. Together, the word Exodus means way out or departure. The actual word Exodus appears in the Bible 3 times in the New Testament: 2 Peter 1:15, Hebrews 11:22, and Luke 9:31. In 2 Peter 1:15, Peter encouraged his listeners to continue on the things he taught even after his departure. Another verse where the word Exodus appears is in Hebrews 11 verse 22, which is a good backdrop for Exodus 1.
By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the departure of the children of Israel, and gave instructions concerning his bones.
That verse is a reference to the end of Genesis, when all of Joseph's family had come to live in Israel and after their father Jacob died.
Then Joseph said to his brothers, "I am about to die, but God will surely visit you and bring you up from this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." And Joseph made the sons of Israel take an oath and said, "God will surely attend to you, and then you must carry my bones up from this place."
The third time the Greek word Exodus is used in the New Testament was in Luke 9 at the Transfiguration.
And behold, 2 men talked with him, who were Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his decease which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem.
In the King James and New King James it uses the word decease instead of departure, so the word is used to describe physically leaving a place and also the spirit leaving the body. The use of the word Exodus in Luke 9 verse 31 is pretty cool when you think about it. He appeared in glory and spoke of his way out which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. What Jesus did at the cross was provide us with a way out. Jesus is our way out of being a slave to sin and destruction. He is our Exodus. The book of Exodus starts out right where Genesis left off. Let's begin by reading verses 1 through 5.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt. Each man and his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 persons, for Joseph was in Egypt already.
Israel is the name that God gave Jacob. Israel means God prevails. Genesis 46, 8-25 lists the genealogy of Israel. All of the sons and their sons and daughters were listed. We are told in Genesis 46:26 that there were 66 people, counting all of the people that went with Jacob to Egypt.
All the persons who went with Jacob to Egypt, who came from his body, besides Jacob's sons' wives, were 66 persons in all.
Exodus 1:5 and Genesis 46:27 both say there were 70 people from the house of Jacob that entered Egypt.
And the sons of Joseph who were born to him in Egypt were 2 persons. All the persons of the house of Jacob who went to Egypt were 70.
When the 66 are listed, it does not count Jacob, so the 4 people not listed in the 66 that made up an even 70 were Jacob, Leah, Zilpah, and Bilhah. Now let's go back to Exodus 1 and read verses 6 and 7.
And Joseph died, all his brothers, and all that generation. But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them.
Joseph and his brothers died, but the nation of Israel grew. Verse 6 says the land was filled with them, they were everywhere. In verse 7 it says they were fruitful and multiplied. This was God's purpose for mankind when He created us.
So God created man in His own image. In the image of God He created him, male and female He created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth."
After God destroyed the world by flood except the inhabitants on Noah's ark, the same command was given to them going forth. This was God's purpose for mankind when He created us.
So God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth."
God's purpose for mankind is for us to be fruitful and multiply and to fill the earth. There was no condition to that. The Lord did not say until you get to a certain number of people on the earth or put any other limitations on that. Remember, the big issue in the city of Babel was that all of the people were gathered in one place. The people had no interest in filling the earth.
And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth."
God's message regarding this is always the same: be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Anything to the contrary of this is not God's plan, but the plan of the enemy who wants to kill and destroy all of mankind. Obviously, abortion is wrong. And the idea of population control is of the same satanic lie and agenda. It's controversial to say this, but what about birth control? There is no account anywhere in the Bible where God commanded or encouraged any method of birth control, or encouraged reduction of the earth's population, because there were too many people on the planet. The other day, I saw a commercial on TV that I found really strange and confusing. It started out talking about Roe v. Wade being overturned. It did not express an opinion about whether they thought it was good or bad, but instead proceeded to talk about forced sterilization and how many of the states in this country can legally sterilize women. I know what you're thinking. This sounded very bizarre and strange to me too. So I did some searching on this and found it to be true. Another word for this idea of forced sterilization is eugenics. In 30 states plus Washington, D.C., sterilization is legal. In 18 states it is unclear what their stance is. Only in Hawaii and North Carolina are forced sterilizations banned. Here is a chart showing each state's stance on legalized sterilization. Apparently the justification in this is if someone has a disability or defect, the government can force sterilization in order to prevent children being born with those same disabilities and defects. Supposedly this is not a common practice, but the idea that this even exists is outrageous. Even if the state and federal government could be trusted with this, it's still wrong. God says, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." Besides being fruitful and multiplying in a physical way, God also intends for His followers to be fruitful and multiply in a spiritual way. Believers are supposed to be fishers of men and make disciples. We are supposed to witness to people and tell them the good news of Jesus Christ. God puts no limitation on being fruitful and multiplying in a spiritual way either. Leading another person to Christ is an example of being fruitful and multiplying. A good reference to back this idea of spiritually being fruitful and multiplying is found in Philemon in the New Testament.
I appeal to you for my son, Onesimus, whom I have begotten while in my chains.
Onesimus was a convert of Paul. Paul referred to him as his spiritual son, that he had begotten. And just as the enemy has made war and targeted God's plan of us being fruitful and multiplying, and celebrating the miracle of life, he targets the spiritual aspect of being fruitful and multiplying in the same way. He hates every life that has been born, and he hates every life that has been born again, even more. And that is why we have persecution of believers. It was the same for the Israelites, as we will see in the next section.